So you'll have heard about the BBC strategy review and their plans to basically hack their own limbs off to save money that really doesn't need to be saved that badly. What you might not have heard, because they haven't done a very good job of promoting it, is that being the BBC, they're doing a public consultation first, which is underway right now. If you ever gave a fuck about the BBC at all, I command you to fill in the questionnaire. And it isn't your average, please rate from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, questionnaire either. They ask you for your opinion, and then expect you to give it in articulate sentences. Because they're the BBC. They want to know what principles they should be working with. I always like to educate, inform and entertain myself. They want to know what you think they can improve. Maybe the news is a bit too tabloid. Maybe channels like BBC Three might be trying too hard. Personally, what I think needs improving the most is the corporation's balls. Assuming it even has any in the first place, they need to be bigger.
The BBC dumps free news. It's chilling. The BBC Trust has an abysmal record. These were some of the phrases you attributed or used to describe the BBC last night. What sort of a BBC, if any, do you want?
Look, I think I was pretty clear.
Let me make this clear. People like the Murdochs and the Mail, whose criticisms have sparked this unnecessary strategy review, which could lead to the crippling of the BBC as we know it, those people aren't criticising the corporation on its merits, because they don't care about the BBC's merits. They just want them dead. The Murdochs and Sky and ITV, because it's competition, and competition must die. Whereas the Mail and the Express and the tooth-gnashing right-wing aquatic livestock that make up their readership, their problem with the BBC is the unforgivable fact that everyone in the country contributes a small amount of their income to something that everyone in the country, including themselves, gets something out of. Or would get something out of if they weren't absolutely determined not to, out of sheer bullheaded spite. The point is, the BBC needs to remember that one simple fact, that whatever the Mail or the Express or the Murdoch clan or the Conservative Party say about the BBC, what they mean is, we want you dead. And caving into them by slicing off an arm, which is what they're doing, will get them nowhere. Less than nowhere, because it's actually going to damage them. They don't want a token sacrifice. They want the corporation dead. So they need to fight. And I swear more people will fight with them than they think. And what would help is if they stop shooting themselves in the foot. Stop trying to be ITV. Another of the questions is, what should the BBC do to make themselves distinctive from other broadcasters? The answer to that is everything. Because the BBC is not like other broadcasters. It's a nationalised industry, a true public service broadcaster, an insanely cheap provider of television, radio, internet and new media broadcasting, and a cultural hub for an entire nation and beyond. It should act like it. The BBC shouldn't be like other broadcasters and media. Other broadcasters and media should be trying to be like the BBC. Now this is where the question of Six Music and the Asian Network come in. The former is a station which has played Pavement, Sly and Robbie, Teenage Fan Club, The Orb, AC/DC, Funkadelic, The Chemical Brothers, Nat King Cole, Pixies and The Big Pink on the same day. If distinctiveness is the corporation's goal, cancelling Six Music would achieve the precise opposite. And the same goes for Asian Network. Ignore the drooling, ranting racists. The Asian Network is exactly what the BBC should be doing. A radio station for Asian communities is really, no different from having a radio station for people who enjoy classical music and or jazz, which they already had before the Asian Network came along. All radio stations and television channels are aimed at one group of people or another above all else. There's no reason why an ethnic group should be any different from the 18 to 29-year-old demographic. The overriding ethos of the BBC strategy review is to do fewer things better. They don't need to do fewer things better. They should be concentrating on doing the same number of things as they are doing, as well as they possibly can. Pledging to do fewer things, closing things like Six Music and the Asian Network, decimating the web presence as if it's not the third arm of broadcasting in this day and age, it will ultimately achieve nothing. It is completely unnecessary for any reason other than to placate the critics of the BBC who, as I've already mentioned, won't be placated as long as there is a BBC. Or at least as long as there is a licence fee. Same thing. Because make no mistake, without a licence fee it's not the BBC. Let me reiterate. Television. 9 channels. 10 if you count HD. 10 radio stations. 11 with the World Service. God knows how many with all the local stations. Overseas channels like BBC America, BBC Prime, BBC Arabic, the biggest news service in the world. A website that covers almost anything you could think of. The rise of the internet as third arm of broadcasting, the BBC was a major player in that. Magazines like the Radio Times and Top Gear, orchestras. Young Musician of the Year, the proms, the fucking proms. All that. All of that. For 39p a day. I had dole checks that came to more a fortnight than the BBC, with all of that costs in the whole year. There's a reason the opponents of the television licence constantly mention EastEnders as if it's the sum total of the BBC's output. It's because if they acknowledged the real sum total of the BBC's output, they would die of shame. They used to make promos defending the licence fee. Now they're bending over backwards to apologise for it. The slogan on those promos used to be, "You make it what it is." Well, right now it's not me that's making it what it is. It's not us, the people that love the BBC. It's the people that hate it. They've made it what it is. Weak and whipped, and apologising for its own existence. Fuck that. I will fight for the BBC. I know many others will as well. But first we needed to fight for itself.